It's a soggy start to the work week out there for some, a windy start for others, but the pattern is changing, and that means severe weather is back into the picture with an all hazards type outbreak possible later this week. I'll have all the details, plus a sunspot is brewing, a streak is broken, and a heat wave is building. If you like the weather, you're in the right place. This is Cold Rain's Weather World, where we've got all the weather, and it starts right now. Happy Monday, folks, and welcome into another work week kickoff edition of Cold Rain's Weather World, the fastest growing new weather show on the internet. And we have added a ton of new subscribers over the past week or so, including this weekend. So thank you all for signing up and joining the journey here at Cold Rain's Weather World, where we've got all the weather. We talk about the current weather, the upcoming weather, to make sure you're prepared for your work week, weekend, week ahead, what have you. And we also take a look at upcoming marquee events, highlighting those important items that you need to be aware of as you go about your business for the week. And we have a little fun along the way. And one of the promises that I make to you is to leave you a little bit smarter than when you joined the show. And one of the ways we do that here is by testing your weather IQ. And I'm going to do that right now, as we always do to start the show. And today's IQ question is our last question, for now at least, about our star. So if you know the answer, type it in the comment section. If you don't know it, wait till the end of the show and you'll know it then, and you can tell all your friends about it. So here's the question. Which of these layers is the sun's visible surface? Is it A, the corona, B, the photosphere, C, the convective zone, or D, the core? If you know it, type it. If you don't, just wait, and you will soon. Well, we've got quite a lot of weather out there going on this morning, including rain. Raindrops are falling on my head here in Morganton, North Carolina, as they are on many people's heads throughout the Southeast and the Pacific Northwest and the tip of the Northeast. Yes, I'm looking at you, Maine. So we've got a little bit of rain up there, but the bulk of the rain by far and away is the Southeast this morning. And so we're going to take a look at what's going on there, how long we can expect it to rain over the next couple of days. We've got a pattern change that is going to get underway here, and it is going to bring about the threat of severe weather as we go through the week, particularly toward the end of the week. So we're going to look at that. We'll take a look at your long range and finish up with our geological update, as we typically do. So we're going to start here with our satellite imagery, and you can see a couple of important features here to take note of. Little wave coming out of Canada right into the Northeast that is bringing some showers up there. Our big upper level low pressure has spawned a surface low, and that is spinning here over Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and it is just pumping moisture all into the Southeast. You can see that plume here on the satellite picture. Look at this spin out here. This is another low pressure that is about to move into the West Coast, and you can see the trough associated with that here that is bringing some clouds and unsettled weather out into the Pacific Northwest. And we're going to see all of that right now as we transition over to our radar. Look at this. So we've got rain showers in the Pacific Northwest, not a lot, not heavy activity, but we see all of that, and another little wave up in Canada. We've got these little waves up here in Canada that are bringing some rain up there. I'm going to back this out so we can kind of see the whole picture here. Big rain here in the Southeast. Flood watches are up for parts of Alabama, North Carolina, up into West Virginia. So we're seeing plenty of rainfall. Lots of rain has already fallen in a lot of these areas, several inches down here in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and getting into North Carolina here. Flooding has been reported in Alabama as well. So we're seeing lots of moisture coming in out of the Gulf, off the Atlantic. And this is going to persist for a couple of days here. Little wave, as I said, bringing some rain showers up here to Maine, and then this other system moving onshore, California, Oregon, Seattle, all going to see rain this afternoon, Idaho and Montana as well. So going to be a rainy day for some, heat in the middle of the country. You don't see anything going on here on the radar, and that is true because there's nothing there except for a big heat dome. All right, so what we've got going on here on our surface map, right in this red area, you can see this outlined here. This is where we're looking at flooding threat potentially And so we're seeing an slight risk of excessive rainfall in most of these areas, with the exception of the southern tip of Florida, where they've got a moderate risk down there. It's just been repeating showers and thunderstorms. And so that training activity often times will lead to flooding. So we've got that. We've got a little bit of fog up here in the plains, a couple of troughs up here, high pressure generally in control out in the middle of the country, and then that system working into the northwest, bringing some snow to the higher elevations. There's a couple of winter storm watches up out here as well, and you can kind of see that showing here into the mountains of Wyoming up into Montana, and some of these the Bighorns and Bitterroots up here. You're going to see some snow, folks. Not a ton of snow, but some snow. And then look at this big area of red flag warnings up in Minnesota, covering most of the state, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, central Nebraska, and even western Montana, down here in eastern New Mexico, western New Mexico, southeastern Arizona. Red flag warnings. It's going to be windy. It's going to be low humidity. It's going to be hot. Burning is ill-advised. As a matter of fact, don't do it at all, because wildfires will spread rapidly. Wind advisories up for the southwest. Flood watches, as I talked about before, are up in various places. We could see a few more of these issued over the course of the next couple of days. So that's what's going on with your hazards map. Dew points, as I said, very, very low up in the Midwest into the western third of the country. Look at this, very, very low dew point. It's going to lead to dry conditions. Of course, very moist over the southeast, where that big upper low is just pumping in all of that moisture out of the Gulf and off the Atlantic. So that's going to be in place, as I said, so don't burn anything out here. Looking at the upper wind pattern for today, look at this. We've got a big area of low pressure centered right over Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, where kind of they all come together. That's where the center of that low pressure is. Jet streak working into the Pacific Northwest associated with that storm out there. And watch what happens as we go through the day. This is this morning. We go through this afternoon. We see a little bit of wind pumping in here in the mid-levels. This is our 500 millibar chart, and it shows you what's going on up there about 3.5 miles off the surface, which influences what happens at the ground. And one of the things we tend to look at is you see these lines. These are isobars, and these lines sort of fan out. You kind of see that a little bit. They sort of fan out. You see how they kind of fan out here? That's divergence, and that means lift, because as the air spreads apart upstairs, air rushes in from the surface to replace it. And so we see lift, and that means, if you've got moisture, you're going to see rain showers, and we're seeing plenty of rain over the southeast under this broad lift. This little bit of a jetlet, we'll call it, not very strong, but it could help to organize a few of those thunderstorms and potentially produce enough spin to create a tornado or two, particularly along eastern Georgia, South Carolina, potentially into North Carolina. Not really a big severe weather outbreak we're looking at this afternoon, but potentially a couple of reports of wind, a spin up or two that is brief would not be out of the question here. And so that's what's going on in the upper levels. Looking at the surface, looking at our radar here in the southeast, this is the projected radar as we go through the afternoon. So starting here this morning, plenty of rain, North Carolina, South Carolina, Greenville, Columbia, Asheville, everybody's getting inundated, down toward Chattanooga and into just north of Atlanta, seeing the heavier rains. But we'll see rain pick up as we go through the day. It'll be spotty in nature back to the west, a little bit more organized and steady under this plume coming up that we saw in the satellite picture before. You can see that reflected here on the radar as well. Big area of rain for North Carolina, South Carolina, and then, of course, through central Florida, too. Spotty activity back to the west through the afternoon. As the heating of the day occurs, you'll see more and more shower and thunderstorm activity back here. And some of the lighter rain may not be showing up here, but even where it's not raining, it'll still be cloudy. So not really a great day for outdoor activities if you're traveling about in the southeast. Your commute home is going to be wet for much of the southeast, particularly the eastern sections, eastern Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. You're looking at rain this evening up into West Virginia, and much of the southern Illinois and Indiana and Ohio as well. So that upper low is just yielding unsettled weather. As we go on through the evening, you'll see those rounds of rain continue through the evening. Several inches of rain could fall. These are going to be efficient rainfall producers as the moisture content in the atmosphere is very, very high. So that's what's going on in the southeast. Our other trouble spots, the Pacific Northwest. And so we're going to see rain move in as we go through the morning, and the model's doing a little bit of a job projecting a little bit more robust precipitation than is actually out there right now. But we should see rain from Eureka to Eugene, just north of Sacramento, into I'm sorry, Redding, and then Eugene, Oregon, and Portland, Oregon. You guys all will see rain. Salem, you'll see some rain. Seattle and Spokane could see a couple of showers as well through the afternoon, but the bulk of it's going to be centered around Oregon, Northern California. Then we'll get into central Idaho, into Montana near Helena. So you all could pick up some rain as we move through the afternoon into the evening hours. You can kind of see how that eventually Seattle gets in on the picture too. So we'll see rain showers pick up there, not flooding rains or anything like that, but certainly steady rains. Looking at the severe weather potential this afternoon, as I said, marginal risk, this is a level 1 out of 5, so not looking at a big severe weather outbreak, but certainly could see a marginal risk or a couple of isolated reports of wind or tornadoes potentially. Same again up in northern Montana, just in the northwest tip of North Dakota, where we could see some high-based isolated supercells develop with a little bit of wind up there. So you could see wind being the primary threat. Hail, not so much. You could see a little bit of hail down here, and tornadoes as well. You could see, basically a very small chance of tornado activity down into the southeast, but not a lot going on there. Finally, this is the first day in about 3 weeks that we have not had a slight risk or higher so far. So that breaks our streak, and we'll have to start a new streak, and we probably will over the next couple of days. That's actually looking likely. High temperatures are going to be high indeed, particularly in the northern plains. We've seen 100-degree temperature readings up there over the past day or so, and we expect to see that again through the course of this afternoon. Bismarck and Fargo, places like that, you guys are going to be under the gun with heat, 90s and up to 100 again, 100 in South Dakota near Pierre. So we're looking at lots of big heat in the plains. It's going to be dry. Those temperatures are going to soar. Hot, dry, windy conditions gusting to 35 miles per hour this afternoon. Again, adverse fire conditions, but a big heat dome in the center of the country. About north of this line here, we're seeing average highs in May in the 60s. So look at this, 40 degrees, 30 and 40 degrees above normal, 70s in the center, 80s across the south. These lines are not exact, so if you're a weather nerd, don't at me too hard because the inaccuracy of the drawing, but that gives you a general idea at least of where May temperature averages are. And seeing these temperatures relative to average is pretty stark, folks. So we'll be near average for highs up in the northeast and the northwest today. Cooler in the southeast under the influence of that upper low. As we go into the nighttime hours, expect to see much colder temperatures out here in the west, particularly in the mountains, as that trough works in, cools things off. Still going to be warm across the center of the country, where it's dry and that heat is going to be slow to dissipate, cool up in the northeast, and then warm and mild and muggy across the south. So that's what's going on for today, folks. That is your Monday forecast. Now, the pattern's going to be changing, and we're going to see the return of severe weather as we get to the end of the week, and we're going to look at that here in a second. But I wanted to tell you something that I know that I don't know if you know, and that is that the driest place on Earth isn't a typical desert per se, but it is a desert. Yes, Antarctica is classified as a desert because it is so dry. It is the driest place on Earth, and though it is a deep snow and ice pack, it only receives 2 inches of precipitation per year. That's liquid equivalent precipitation. Everything that falls will be snow, more than likely, and we melt that down and comes out to about 2 inches of precipitation. That, folks, is dry. It takes years and years and years and years for snow to pile up at that rate. That's almost like what happens where cold rain lives. It takes years and years and years to end up with 2 inches of snow. So anyway, that's a little fun did you know, and so I wanted to share that with you. So as we make our way around turn 4 and head down the home stretch, we've got a couple of other items to get to, including a wind threat that will pick up as we go through this week. These storms crash into the west coast, they amplify into the plains, and we get gradient winds occasionally, and that gives rise to red flag warnings, wind advisories, and wind warnings. And we're going to see those, and we are seeing those. And so we're going to talk about that. I'll tell you a little bit more about the pattern change in terms of the severe weather threat that is going to emerge as we get later into this week. There are some details yet that need to come together and that are still unknown. We'll refine that, of course, as we go through the week. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you to those that have. I pray for you all every day that the Lord will bless you and keep you and help you through whatever difficulty is going on in your life, if there is any. And certainly if there's something specific to pray over, please put that in the prayer request. I sincerely mean that. I'll pray over that. And if there's any questions that you have, any suggestions for the show, please leave those too. Always happy to take those suggestions, and we'll respond to all of that. Give the content a like, share it with friends and family. All of this helps YouTube to push this out to more people so we can grow the community. But anyway, I hope you're having a good time, and we're going to go ahead and get on into the rest of the weather that's affecting us, including wind. So as we look at this wind map for this afternoon, you can see right away we start to see some things jump off the page at us. Big wind showing up out here. This wind is around, these are gusts, by the way, so 40 miles per hour, getting up close to 50 where you see the orange. And so we've got wind advisories up out here. Red flag warnings for winds in the 30s, potentially gusting into the 30s this afternoon up in the upper plains. We saw those red flag warnings earlier. It's going to be very dry, so don't burn anything at all. As we go through the week, storm system is going to take shape in the west. It's going to move over and really amplify, get its act together as we get into the plains. So as we get on into Thursday, into Friday, look at this. Big gradient wind potential up in the northern plains and into the Midwest as we start to see winds gusting into the 40s, maybe even the 50s outside of thunderstorms. So pay attention up here. Hold on to your hat. It's going to be a windy week, particularly in the western quadrant or half of the country. Looking at the mid-level winds again, we're going to look at this one more time because it gives you an idea of what's happening and how the storm system is going to evolve. You can see it pushing in. This is Tuesday morning. Storm system, our main storm, is coming in to the west coast with this big jet streak. Low pressure that we've been watching and dealing with in the southeast is finally going to start to kick to the north and east as we move through Tuesday and into Wednesday. As we get into Wednesday morning, look what happens where we are. We've got this big trough coming in to the west coast. This jet streak associated with that is going to be providing wind energy for for the southwest, and so this trough is just going to continue to amplify and get its act together. Finally, our upper low is opened up and is moving off to the north. We're going to continue to see scattered showers up there in the Ohio Valley into the northeast. But look what's happening here with our trough as we get on into Thursday morning. Watch this. I'm going to stop it right here and show you a couple things. Jet streak moving in over the southern plains. This trough, you can see this here. It's taken on kind of a negative tilt. Remember, negative is back from the northwest to the southeast. What does that do? Really helps to fan out these isobars. You see how that fan kind of shape is right in there? That's big lift in the mid-levels. And you've got this jet streak working in that's going to provide some wind shear, wind increasing with height. And this negative tilt is going to continue to increase those dynamics as we go on through. So watch this as we get on into Friday. So that's Thursday afternoon. Look where that jet streak is. It's moving into the area of the mid-Mississippi Valley, okay, and into the, eventually it's going to work into the Ohio Valley and off into the Great Lakes. So watch this as we go through Thursday. This trough has started to close off now. We've got an upper low. Jet streak to the south of that, plenty of lift going on, and look at that. So plenty of wind energy in the mid-levels now, and so we're going to see as that wind energy makes its way into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, we'll probably see that severe weather threat kick up by Friday afternoon out here, and it just persists over the course of the day Friday. Looking at the Storm Prediction Center, highlighted a couple of areas of risk as we get into Thursday. That area of risk is most of Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and into western Kentucky. This is not exact. This is one of those things that we're going to have to watch as we go through the course of the week, the exact placement of this, but this is a good general area to start paying attention to and be weather aware as we go through the week. Day 5 is Friday. Down here, Boot Hill of Missouri, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, and eastern Arkansas up near Fayetteville. That's where we're going to be seeing the severe weather threat as it stands now. This could actually expand and shift to the east, but we're looking at all hazards. Tornadoes, wind, hail, potentially strong tornadoes. So pay attention as we go through the course of the week. I will keep you updated here on this channel as well, but that's what we're looking at right now for all of that. Looking at high temperatures as we go through the week. Here, let me just shift that over a little bit. Warm in the plains, again, hundreds up there as we look at tomorrow's temperatures, hundreds down in the southwestern portion of Texas too. Cooler under the influence of the trough in the west, cooler under the influence of that upper low in the east. But all of that's going to be changing. Look here as we go into Thursday, I'm getting ahead of myself. Wednesday, that dome shifts east slightly. Heat builds in South Texas. Heat builds over the southeast as that upper low pulls away, keeps the northeast a little bit cooler, and that trough and storm system coming into the coast, into the western part of the country, is going to keep the west a little bit cooler as well. 60s and 70s out there. 80s and close to 90s shift east through the Great Lakes, and to include much of the east with the exception of the northeast. As we get into Thursday and then Friday, it continues to shift east. So that heat wave is going to push off to the east. Most of the east, with the exception of the northern New England areas, are going to be in the 80s, and then cooler up across the border. We're finally seeing some relief with that storm system up here, but it's going to be windy and stormy as well, and windy also in the desert southwest. Looking at all of this and how all this comes together over the course of the week. So Wednesday morning, upper low pushing out. Watch what happens Wednesday afternoon. The heating of the day takes place, and you get all these pop-up showers. That's typical. Same again out here. Instability is created, and so you get more showers and storms. But look what happens as we get on into Thursday afternoon. We're starting to see this low pressure take shape and really deepen over the upper plains and closing in on the Midwest. This thing will get down into the 80s, the 980s. And so you can see that the European doesn't show a lot in the way of thunderstorm activity. We're probably going to see much more in the way of that than what the model is showing. So we'll watch this as we go through the week. Other models are showing a little bit more activity out here. It is to be expected with the dynamics that we have in place. And then Friday, as we get on into Friday morning, Friday afternoon, we start to see showers and thunderstorms develop where the Storm Prediction Center had that risk over Tennessee and Kentucky and places like that. So we're going to see an active pattern return, probably see as we go on out in time, more mesoscale complexes develop and move into the southeast as well. Looking at the big pattern, big picture pattern, kind of how that's changing over time. Remember how we had these big reds up in Canada, big ridge up in the central of the country, drawing all that heat up and creating a heat dome? Well, that's changed by the time we get into Saturday morning. This big upper low that has moved into the West Coast and spawned that severe weather Thursday and Friday is now in the Great Lakes. Could see some more severe weather Saturday, and cooler temperatures prevail under these warmer colors, or these oranges down here in the south. That's where we're going to find warmer temperatures. And so we go on out into next week. Another system comes into the West Coast, so an active pattern. We'll get good moisture return out of that. Could see another severe weather event next week. Warm out ahead of it, moves across the northern tier, cooling the northern tier down, warmer in the southern tier. So if we look at a long-range prediction, what would you expect? Cool up here, warm to the south. And so let's see what the Weather Prediction Center says, and that's exactly what they say. Warm to the south. You see the warm colors down here, so above normal across the south, particularly along the southern border and Gulf Coast, and then cooler across the north where those systems are kind of moving through, keeping us cloudy and unsettled. And looking at Alaska, below normal across the north, maybe near normal toward the south, above normal in Hawaii, 6 to 10 day. Again, this is May the 17th through the 21st. And so looking at much of the country above normal in terms of a signal of probability of precipitation. So above normal precipitation with the exception of South Florida, South Texas, desert Southwest, and the West Coast, particularly California. So we're looking at, unfortunately, not a lot of rain in those areas. Hawaii, Alaska, above normal. So that's your 6 to 10 day forecast. That's the long range forecast. Of course, those things get a little murky as you get out in time, so things could change, but that's the way it looks now, and there's good agreement across different ensemble suites, so that gives us more confidence that's what's going to happen as we get on into next week. Our 4 volcanoes, Sitkin, Kilauea, Aya, and Spur, all very, or Ahi actually, and Spur, all about the same. So still active, nothing going on in terms of anything new. But look at this. If we look here, we had a 4.1 earthquake in Tennessee, just south of Greenback, and lots of people felt that. I don't think it was extremely dangerous or damaging, and there were lots of people that actually felt it, some shaking, some books fell off the shelves, pictures off the walls, things like that, but nothing too damaging. They felt it all the way in Georgia, actually, but we saw a 5.6 yesterday in China again. So we've seen kind of an active pattern. Looking at our sunspot activity, as you can see here, see these bright spots? That means there's solar activity on the around the limb, about to move in. One solar active spot region is actually departing. So we're going to start to see a pickup in solar activity as a sunspot, a new sunspot segment kind of moves in here. And if we take a look here, the other thing that we look at is coronal hole, because they shoot out plasma streams and solar wind. And look at this. So I'm going to do one more advancement here. I should have went back the other way. There it is, the big dark spots, the coronal hole. That'll help to potentially send some solar wind our way. If it's dense enough, we could see geomagnetic activity tick up. Solar flares can do the same thing. And then you get aurora and northern lights as the geomagnetic activity picks up. But we don't have a risk of auroras today, so no northern light viewing, unfortunately. So that is our update for the day, and that brings us to the answer to today's Weather IQ question, which is, which of these layers is the sun's visible surface? The corona, the photosphere, the convective zone, of the core. You can't view the core because we'd all be dead. And we're not looking at the corona. Some people drink the corona. Well, it's not the convective zone. That leaves us with, yes, the photosphere. The photosphere is the visible surface of the sun. It is not a place you take your film to get developed, because we don't do that anymore. We use our phones for pictures now. Anyway, that is the answer to the question, folks. I hope it's been informative for you. I hope it's been a good show. It's been a good show for me. Hey, if you get a chance, I did a couple of quick shorts this weekend with my son, Cold Drizzle. He wanted to do a weather video with me, and so it's good for him to do those things, and we had a good time doing that. I'll put the link in the description of the video if you want to take a look at it. We had a good time, as I said. But that's it for our show today, folks. I hope you all have a wonderful Monday and start to your work week. And again, this is Cold Rain reminding you that if other stations run 24/7, we've got you covered right here on Cold Rain's Weather World 4814. Take care, folks. Have a great day.